Hello, it is Monday. Fun day. Been a while. I've been away working on a novel. It was National Novel Writing Month. I always have this pie in the sky dream that I am gonna just, write 50,000 words and I'm gonna make all these videos and I'm gonna hang out with you guys and it's gonna be wonderful and great and amazing. However, it's hard to write a novel, and that was my main thing that I wanted to do, so I put YouTube kind of on the side while I worked on that. And I'm happy to say that I did it. I made 50,000 words happen. It was great. Draft 2 complete. That is for my book, the sequel to my book, The Books of Avo, which is available on Etsy now, as well as itch.io. McKay and Gray, you will find me. In a lot of videos, Ursula is drawing stuff for the Books of Avo. It's like 1920s fantasy stuff, and we're turning it into a webtoon, which dovetails into what I will be talking about today, which is Crow Story. And Crow Story is a future light novel, webtoon thingy that I will be working on. Right now, I am just in the developmental stages of this. I'm trying to keep it in there for as long as possible because Ursula's very busy. Art is hard. Art is very time consuming, and she's a busy lady, so, I'm stalling for us. And I also have a lot of fun world building. I'm going to make a playlist and I'm going to link it here or whatever, or put it down below. I don't really know how YouTube works anymore. It's always changing. You look away and it's different. So I've really gone into like the broad strokes of the world and some of the nitty gritty. I have a video where I go over the different fantasy races that exist in it. And then I have one where I went over the magic system, and another one where I've kind of gone over the large geography, the geographical regions, like the main big states that exist. That kind of leaves a whole bunch of little nitty-gritty things. And if you are interested in hearing me yammer on, I'm sure you're super excited to have me talk about this more. So yeah, if you want to get caught up, you can do so through the playlist. Otherwise, I will try my best to explain things and refresh you all on what is going on here. So today we will be talking about one of the provinces within the main kingdom. Actually, this is like, before I really go in, I want to say that all of my world building is kind of mostly from the POV of the Divine Kingdom. I think when I world build, I tend to pick a POV because you kind of have to, because just depending on like what lens you look at the world, like people like divide things differently. Like I talked about this a bit in the magic system, but like magic is so complicated and large, like you can draw distinctions and lines wherever you want. So like I like to pick kind of one main one that I go through, and then I have little side thoughts of my own about how like other cultures and stuff might perceive it. With all that being said, we're going to talk about Belmire, which is within the Divine Kingdom of the Lindworm, and we're going to go over the two major religions that exist within it. And yeah, the character that's being drawn currently in this video is the Prince of the Divine Kingdom, and he lives in Belmire. He is a fanciful little elf lad. The other one being drawn is from also the Divine Kingdom, but far away. We'll be dealing with that later, because I have so many things to talk about. We can have so many videos, guys. So Belmire is within the Divine Kingdom, and it is home to the royal family. It is a province known for its many like caves that go into the mountain, and these caves are full of like aether crystal. Aether crystal is basically super dense magic, just crystallized. So it is super potent with magic and super rich with all of that, and it is sort of like a sacred place, and that is where the palace is built. So almost all of Belmire exists sort of within this valley, I guess. It's like there's like a horseshoe kind of thing that happens with the mountains, and Belmire is kind of what exists within this, and then up into the alpine regions kind of. But within the valley, that's kind of the main crux of what Belmire as a province is. What Belmire is a land full of mages. Because of the Aether and because of how the magic system works, the exposure to Aether when growing up, when in the womb, when like based on your parents and all of that, it just leads to like everyone kind of being born mages, and it really has to do with the vast amount of crystal and like the closeness, and also the general thing where people like interact with crystal a lot more in Belmire than in other places. Super full of mages. So mages, as a refresher, mages are like able to do magic, and they also look like traditional kind of elves. Like there's all sorts of different types of elves. Everyone has like a base element. With that element, you can either look more like an elf or more like an animal, and the elf that you look like and the animal is based on like what element you have, blah blah blah. So like everyone in Belmire tends to look very elvish and not very animalistic at all. So there's not a lot of fauns, and there are certainly not a lot of like centaurs or anything like fanciful like that. The ones that are like immigrants to Belmire, and in like subsequent generations, very quickly they lose those animal features. So like a centaur starting a family would probably end up with like a mage child, or like a common elf that's like a little bit horsey, but not a full-blown centaur. Like that is kind of the way things work in Belmire, due to the vast amount of magic and how that like affects how you end up growing up. Belmire is pretty full of itself because of this. Like the Divine Kingdom in general, we've talked about being kind of like colonial. It's an empire. It's kingdom. It's an empire. Like they've expanded very far, but Belmire is like where it all started. It certainly gave them thoughts about like their place in the world. Within Belmire, there are some native faun populations, but those are in the more alpine regions away from the crystal caves, basically. Like not everywhere in the mountain has super exposed crystal like the valley does. Like I was saying, I don't know if I was saying this actually, there are two major religions that are practiced in Belmire, surprisingly. Like, I talked a bit about this in my video about geography, and my video about geography was so dense, so dense, so you probably don't remember it, but the Divine Kingdom of the Lindworm is a kingdom very much based around a belief that the lindworm, this giant snake guy, is God, basically. We'll get into like the nitty gritty of it, but like the Divine Kingdom very much cares about the lindworm, and it very much cares about what we will refer to as the lindworm Orthodoxy, and they have spread that gospel all the way across the world. I'm sure people love it. I'm going to detail in the future how much people love this. However, surprisingly, there is another religion that is practiced within Belmire. We'll get into those after I detail a bunch of the other stuff, I guess. Demographically, like I said, it's mostly just mages, except in certain like alpine regions And then it's in like the southern regions, instead of fauns, there's a lot more meadow elves, but meadow elves are basically fauns. The way that I was explaining it to Ursula is that fauns tend to have like their lower half look like their animal, whereas meadow elves tend to have their upper half look more like animals. So they tend to have more like animal-like faces compared to like fauns. So those are like up in the mountains. And then the largest population of divine elves exists within Belmire, and divine elves are mages that are divine in origin. Their element is the divine element. Can't do magic. Don't know why they're so full of themselves. And like, if you're a mage who can't do magic, are you really a mage, guys? I don't know. But divine elves make up the largest portion of the population here. Honestly, like when I think about it, like divine elves outside of the divine kingdom are just considered like common elves, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, and anyways, but then there's like further away from the palace, there's common elves. Like in general, Belmire, as we're about to learn, kind of sucks to live in. So it's very sparse. The only major city is the divine palace, like that area where the king lives, but that is more due to like how sacred it is and how important it is, rather than it being like just a freaking amazing place to live. Like, doesn't really have that going for it, because Belmire is super freaking hot. Belmire has like maybe like a degree cooler in the summer. It's a little more in the southern hemisphere. Throughout the year, Belmire tends to be like around like 24 to 29 degrees Celsius during the day, and then like 16, 19 at night Celsius. And that's throughout kind of the whole year. And it is also super dry, which also doesn't help. It's very hot, very dry. A large portion of it is like grassland and savanna. The largest inhabited areas tend to be the slightly more wet areas, I guess. Like there's like tropical forests throughout that people live in, and they're like dry tropical. So it might not be exactly what you think. There's like cactuses and stuff, right? Because like there's like a short season with like a lot of rain, but it's not like monsoon like amounts of rain. But there is like a rainy season and a dry season, and just in general, it's a difficult place to live. Yeah, so that's all the climate. I guess like in the mountains, it becomes more like temperate, a lot cooler, and there's deciduous forests, but not really across the whole mountain either. It's just harsh, man. It's harsh. What a cool, fancy little boy to live in such a difficult world, right? We love him. We stan. Maybe we won't stan when we get through this. So, the religions, okay? I've been working really hard on making all of these religions, okay? So please give me many, applause. Yes, please give me much applause. Let's talk about the main one. Let's talk about the big boy. Let's talk about the lindworm orthodoxy, guys. As I was saying, dominant religion practiced in the lindworm kingdom, and it also has a very large presence in the Duchy of Thane. As I mentioned in my geography video, the Duchy of Thane is kind of a vassal for the Divine Kingdom. Yeah, so not surprising that a large amount of Thane has converted to the divine religion, the Orthodoxy. That's it. Okay, so what is the deal with the Lindworm Kingdom? The Lindworm Kingdom is going to have a lot of the beliefs that were detailed in my magic, like how magic works, like where it comes from and all of that. And that's not necessarily because it's all true. I might be lying to you guys. We don't know. However, like I said, we're looking at things from the point of view of the divine kingdom, so therefore it stands to reason that all of my world building around magic heavily relies on what they believe to be the truth. So, sorry, I got incredibly distracted by my cat just there. If this doesn't flow together, blame that. Before the lindworm came to be, the world was just like aether and nether. I defined those at some point, but you know, like aether is magic, nether is like not magic. It's anti-magic. And then there was like scraps of land, like just hunks of rock and stuff all over the place, right? And it is said that from the nether, 12 beasts were born. And they were born so that they could tend to the aether. And when they tended to the aether, they created 12 elements from it. And with those 12 elements, they were able to create a whole bunch of magic. That magic formed into a serpent. And this serpent, growing like super large, ate everything. And it ate all of the 12 beasts. It ate every single one of them. And it pulled the world together around itself. It took like all of like the rocks and stuff and like brought it around itself. And then as its last act, the lindworm, the serpent, the little snake boy, it blessed the creatures of the land with the power of magic. Mages, therefore, are super blessed beings, amazing, the best creations, the lindworm's favorite guys. Fauns, little bit blessed, not entirely blessed. A lot less blessed, some of them, actually. And animals really aren't considered special at all. Like, they existed before the lindworm, just kind of skittering about on top of these rocks. So, like, whatever. Like, they weren't blessed like the elves and the fauns were. Mostly the elves. And then so the king of the divine kingdom is regarded as the person with the purest magic. The king, his family, they were born into this magical valley that is so pure with aether and just so amazing that he is just the best being in existence. And he is the leader of the church, and he is just amazing. And his son, as we can see, super amazing. Cute little guy. Love him. And everything was perfect, right? Right. So the lindworm orthodoxy, they believe that you should worship the lindworm. It made the world. You shouldn't be worshiping the 12 beasts that it ate like a heathen. No, do not do that. You are supposed to reflect upon the elements, and, you know, the lindworm brought them together for a reason, right? The orthodoxy values magic above, like, all other things, and fauns, who sometimes have magic, somehow, you know, sometimes what you look like doesn't entirely dictate whether or not you have magic. However, it does, because if you are a faun and you are capable of magic, you are banned from doing so. You cannot do that. It is considered a part of witchcraft, which is highly, highly illegal, highly, highly anti-lindworm, super against what the lindworm stands for. So, you know, fauns are banned from magic within the orthodoxy. Punishments, some of them are super severe, some are mild, but you just don't do it. And it's usually not an issue though, because, like, despite what I was saying, it actually is very rare for a faun to have magic. It's just kind of how the magic system works, right? The orthodoxy is against all forms of steward worship. The only exception of this is what we will get into, the other religion practice in Belmire, which is the worship of Fen. Intriguing. Why? Why are they allowed? We will get into it. So the way that, like, the typical, like, religious practice goes here is that they worship daily, preferably at the church, but not always, like, especially in rural areas. But the most important thing is that they attend the sermon on the 13th day. There's like a 13-day cycle, you know? We have like a 7-day one. They got like this 13 thing going on. On the 13th day, that is the day of the lindworm, and you should go to the church. The church is responsible for kind of like teaching the public, and in many places it's like the center of the community. It's just like a big part of life, and especially like the 13th day. And like those who live very close to the church are more likely to like, you know, go for the daily prayer, but like that is the preferred way to go about things. Because it's so widely practiced, there's going to be like some amount of variance regionally. However, there's like a hierarchy to like the church, and it has kind of allowed for like a little bit like more uniformity in beliefs compared to like the variance that happens within like the folk practices of different religions that used to be there, but were like kind of wiped out and folded into lindworm practice stuff. You're supposed to do 12 prayers a day, but like not everyone's actually doing that. But the most important one, again, is going to be your 13th prayer that is like done before like an altar of the lindworm, and you gotta at least thank that god, right? And if you're gonna like pay tribute to the elements, you have to make sure to at least do it in a balanced fashion. Don't skimp out, basically. It's not good for your soul. You start the day praying and like thanking the lindworm for creating the element of hearth, and then, you know, you get really busy and you forget, you know, that leaves you unbalanced, you know? That leaves you, the lindworm's not gonna like that. Like, the lindworm brought the world together, guys. So like, you have to respect all of the pieces, right? And when you're worshiping those pieces, you're not worshiping the beasts. Remember, you are thanking the lindworm for the elements. You know, where there is daily church services, a daily gathering, or even just the 13th day, it is segregated, of course. The fawns have to be further back than the mages, because obviously, what are they even doing here? Like, if there's not enough room, the fawns aren't getting in, right? Like, they're blessed by the lindworm, but like, are they really, guys? I have questions. There's like a holiday for every one of the elements, and of course, a super major amazing holiday dedicated to the lindworm. A lot of like folk customs have kind of been folded into these and like changed a bit to focus on like a more acceptable forms of worship, basically. And yeah, that's kind of it. We'll hear a lot more about them because they're kind of wonderful people. They're just wonderful. They care a lot, okay? They care a lot about how other people live their life. And, you know, we gotta love that for them. They're just caring, okay? So, in Belmire, we were talking about Belmire, right? In Belmire, the other religion is the Fen worshippers. Fen is the divine steward. Divinity itself is one of the elements of the lindworm. One of the 12 beasts was Fen. So in this region, it focuses on the worship of the divine steward. A lot of the beliefs overlap very heavily with the Orthodoxy. So they believe in like the same creation story to the letter, exactly. Where things start to change, however, the worshippers of Fen believe that it is the divine element of Fen that allowed humanity, elfmanity, the people of the world, to learn of the lindworm and its greatness. Fen worshippers believe that Fen gave them the knowledge. She came to a place that is now a holy temple and spoke to the worshippers of Fen, gave them the word of the divine lindworm. So the Fen worshippers believe that all of the elements are equally powerful and important, and they believe that the lindworm is the highest power, so that is not different from the Orthodoxy. However, they believe that you cannot worship the other elements of the lindworm or the lindworm directly. Instead, you have to pray and pay homage to Fen, because Fen is super holy and she is the one that you use in order to communicate to the lindworm. You can't do it directly. You're not a god. Like, she'll talk with you guys, but like, lindworm's too important. While the worshippers themselves believe that Fen came to give them the divine revelation, the Orthodoxy believes that the lindworm actually gave them the revelation. So like, the Orthodoxy believes that the worshippers of Fen are not like simply misguided in their worship, and therefore can be like changed and converted and shown the light, so to speak. The Orthodoxy believes that Fen worshippers were punished by the lindworm. They believe that everyone was already given this story of the lindworm. It was just like ingrained into them through the magic, you know? It's just so powerful. Like, the lindworm didn't need to make its power known. It was already known because it is the one that gave you power, right? So like, the Orthodoxy doesn't believe that the lindworm had to send anyone down to talk to you and inform you of this stuff. But they do believe that the lindworm came and talked to them. And the lindworm came and talked to the worshippers of Fen because they were like the non-believers. They didn't believe what the Orthodoxy was saying about there being like the worm god, you know? They were like, maybe not. Like, I've never seen a lindworm, so like, maybe you're just making stuff up, you know? Like, where's the proof? And the lindworm was like, okay, I'll show them proof. And so like, the lindworm showed up at the fanciful temple and it gave them the divine revelation of Fen, and then it punished them entirely, and it no longer listens to them at all. And they are only able to communicate to the lindworm through Fen because they're miserable losers who didn't believe the lindworm, and now they have to beg one of the beasts to help them. It's all very sad. So like, the curse is passed down through blood, and it lives within the land itself, and it's tainted, and it's just a curse. It's terrible, right? They can never truly find the lindworm. They can never truly worship. It really sucks. And because this is a punishment of the lindworm, because this is a very important tale, they don't really bother the Fen worshippers. It's actually very bad to try and convert a Fen worshipper and try to bring them into the Orthodoxy, because that is in defiance of what the lindworm wanted. Like, these people are supposed to suffer, right? So that is why they still exist. Again, like, the Fen worshippers, they don't believe this. They're like, no, everyone is like us, okay? Everyone actually has to, you can't talk to the worm. Like, maybe the king can, I don't know, but you can't do it, right? So like, how do they practice? What does one do to worship Fen? Well, I'll tell you. They gather in their little temples. It's very much like the church. They're pretty regionally the same. And mages are expected to dedicate study at the church from a very young age. Like, they're supposed to go there, learn magic. They also need to work for the church for like a year before they're allowed to reach adulthood. And work typically means like super long hours of like prayer and using magic to like keep the temple divine. It's just, you know, it's part of life. Fen is considered to be super fickle and constantly needs to be appeased. She is a diva, okay? One must always leave space for her at the dinner table, and the spot that you make for Fen, it has to be clean, it has to have the best dishes that your house has to offer, and Fen should be served a portion of meat every day, not scraps. the good stuff, please. She is a god. To pray to Fen or to ask her to speak to another steward for you, one must have something to offer her. You can't just pray to her. So like, you can't just ask her for stuff. Like, you need to make your case. So one must give her a sacrifice. One must give a sacrifice worthy of the request. And if it is insufficient, she will make your life even worse. Having a bad time, crops bad, insult the wolf goddess, and she'll make it like 10 times worse. Meanwhile, like, if you're not even like keeping up with like her daily like meat and like her daily like praise, even like your best sacrifice is gonna, like, she's gonna look at it and be like, okay, that's great, but like, where were you the rest of the year? Like, you know, like, you can't just show up, stepdad. You can't earn my love this way. Like, you need to be consistent. Love is consistent, guys. That's what I want to teach you right now. Keep up with Fen. Therefore, in times of the greatest suffering, one might even sacrifice an elf for her willingly. They have to go willingly. It's important for some reason. If it's really bad out there, like, that is on the table in times of like extreme drought and famine. It's like, you're gonna go anyways, right? Give Fen what she wants. And I realized I didn't really define what a sacrifice is. It can be like, you know, like a hunt, or it can be like a sacrifice for Fen could be like a mouse that you killed in your like granary. Like, it's for something small. Like, the thing is, like, Fen is like a wolf goddess, so she wants meat. She doesn't really care about your vegetables. She'll help you with your vegetables. She'll talk to the lindworm about it, but you need to give her like meat, the good stuff, please, if it's depending on level of importance. So along that line of appeasing Fen, for like the custom of like death in the lands of like Fen worship, anyone whose death is not from like sickness or poisoning should be offered to Fen. So you need to bury them. Otherwise, you need to burn them. Like, if they're poisoned or sick, like, don't feed that to Fen. Don't bury it in the earth. Burn it away. If you give her contaminated meat, she's gonna be mad. If you don't give her the meat that was good, she's also going to be mad. She's going to be like, why did you throw that out? Why did you burn that? I could have eaten that. God. I am God. I am the goddess. Give me meat. And if you do it properly, she will guard someone else from that same death. If you snub her or feed her rotten BS meat, she will then punish someone else with the same death. So whenever two deaths are really close together, you really got to start paying attention and thinking about, okay, like, what did we do? Why is Fen mad? It is like the duty of the church, basically. All of like that prayer and stuff, all of like that year of service, it's all in dedication to making sure that the region, your town, your community, you're all on the same page and you're all making Fen happy. And if you start to suspect that she's angry, that's really when you need to start like figuring things out. You need to start upping your prayer game, upping your worship, okay? Happy Fen, happy life. There's some holidays. I'm sure they're fun, right? So there's two major holidays in the Fen fandom. So like the most important ones are the Revelation of Fen and the Devouring of Fen. So the Revelation of Fen is to celebrate the revelation of Fen, when she came and told you all about the greatness of the lindworm and allowed you to speak with the gods through her. Like, amazing. We love that. We will celebrate. So before festivities, everyone is supposed to fast if they're able to. and they are instead supposed to give their meals to Fen. So you make dinner, you make breakfast, but you give it to Fen. You don't eat it. After Fen is cared for, thoroughly fed and happy, the fast is broken, and there's festivities, there's food, there's gifts given. It's just a great time. They celebrate learning about God. It's really cool. We love it. They all discuss divine knowledge at the church. It's great. We love it. On the devouring of Fen, we are celebrating that Fen got eaten. And not because we don't like her, but because she became part of the lindworm and became part of the world, and her element of divinity is, encompassed in that. So, like, yay. So, on the devouring, there is a sacrifice of a wolf. So they hunt down a wolf, and then they clean the pelts, and they give it to the local temple. And this is to gain Fen's interest. And then the body of the wolf is buried in like a ritual to represent the devouring. If pleased with the pelt offered to her, Fen will give that sacrifice, that wolf, that effigy, she'll give that to the lindworm. Like, she'll actually take that sacrifice and give it to the big boy himself, the big silly worm on a string. He gets the wolf, and he gets to go nom nom nom. And if she doesn't like it, if she thinks it's a bad pelt, if she thinks you did a bad job, if she thinks, I don't like this pelt, I don't like what you did here, ritual bad, I'm not feeling it, she will not take the sacrifice to the lindworm. She'll just leave it. She might eat it herself. But regardless, the lindworm then punishes everybody for not giving it its meal, not respecting the devouring day, and there is bad fortune all year until a proper sacrifice can be made on the next devouring day. So, yeah, this day coincides with a day that Fen is worshipped within the lindworm orthodoxy. So it all works. Oh, and the divine revelation, that's the day where the lindworm is celebrated. Wow. So that's Belmire. I talked for an hour, but we're good. I'll be able to close it. Oh my God. I hope you had fun. I hope you're interested. I really like this. I've been enjoying it, and I really like sharing what I've been working on, because usually I'm just all in my head. Yeah, if you have questions about it or about like my process in writing it, I'm happy to go into it. Elsewise, praise Fen or the lindworm. Not sure who I jive with. Next Monday, you can look forward to me talking about Blackword. Yeah. Thank you. Love you. Talk to you again soon. I'll try and make Ursula do a video about art. You guys love that, right? All right. Bye.